Hello, hello. Welcome back to Finding Spirit with Tabs. I'm your host, Tabs McCaffrey, and I'm a developing medium here in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. On this show, I share my own personal experience as I grow and develop as a medium, going into Akashic Records, and really everything and anything spiritually related. I like to say this is a choose your woo adventure, and you get to choose the level of woo that you want to jump into. This is just more of like a grounded, practical approach to spirituality. That's how I like to view my experiences, my approach, and how I live my life. Going through a spiritual awakening and coming out on the other side. On that topic, we are going to discuss spiritual awakenings today. And before we jump into that, I have a couple things I wanted to chat about. First off, Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season. I know that there's probably a lot of people that have lost someone in the last year. Myself is one. We lost my mom last year on New Year's Day. And then this year, we actually put our dog Callie down on New Year's Eve. She was 17 years old and her health was starting to fail. It's a little bit of the reason why I've had a break and why I wasn't back on the podcast last week. I just needed some more time to kind of go through the emotions, process everything. There's been a lot of changes in our life, especially with losing our best friend dog Callie, who has been around like 17 years. And I don't know if anyone else has lost a pet, but think of like 17 years of waking up, morning routines, going for walks, letting them out, talking to them, the conversations, the bedtime routines, like everything. It's crazy how they're such a deep-rooted part of your life and the hole that they leave when they leave. And yeah, as a family, we've definitely been feeling it this season. So it was kind of like, last year, New Year's was sad. I don't want to say quite devastating because we knew, like, my mom had been sick for a long time. We knew that this was coming, but it's just, man, 2 years in a row. So I hope that other people maybe had a better New Year's than I did, but it's part of life, right? Death is part of life, and that's something I've really grown to know and understand through my mediumship, that life is circular. I have kind of like a dark joke. I always say none of us are making it out of here alive, and that is the truth. We just don't know when or how long. Okay, that was a very serious note to start this podcast off with, not what I intended. But to be honest, you guys are the first people that I'm talking about our dog passing. I really haven't announced it anywhere else. It's just been really hard for us to talk about in our family. And even as I say, I'm like fighting back these tears. So I'm going to move on from this topic. And I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed year ahead of you, full of connection, healing, success, abundance, all that good stuff coming to you. So, what has been happening in Finding Spirit headquarters? We have a couple things that are rolling out that are going to be happening more often. First is my mediumship group reading. I have one scheduled for January 15th in the evening. I believe that is a Wednesday. I think there's still 2 or 3 seats left if you'd like to grab one of those. This is going to be a small group demonstration, and we're going to keep it to 60 minutes. I have done longer ones in the past, but I find my energy gets a little bit stretched. So I'm just excited to do this, provide some connections. I'm looking to do 7 to 10 minute connections and try and get as many messages passed through that I can. So if you've been curious about mediumship, or you have someone on the other side that maybe you'd like to hear from, or maybe you just want to experience other people receiving messages, that's totally fine. This is a safe and comforting space for you to join into and experience the magic of mediumship. So all are welcome. The other event I have happening is the next day on January 16th, and this is going to be my online monthly mediumship practice circle. We did do one last month in December. It was a little bit of a last minute. It was the week before Christmas, but I'm so grateful for everyone that joined. It was really a fun night. It was magical. There was so many connections. I think it lit all of our souls on fire that day, and it just left us with some moments to hold on to and cherish over the holiday season. Now, what can you expect? So if you're curious and you're like, yeah, I feel like maybe I'm ready for this step, what is this about? We're going to meet once a month. The session at minimum will be an hour and a half, but it can go longer. And I encourage everyone to ask all their questions and have discussions, and we will wrap up when everyone is done doing that. What you can expect is a simple, no fluff approach, like a very practical approach to mediumship. That's how I see it. That's how I practice it. We'll do a little bit of a lesson in the beginning, but it's not even a lesson. It's just kind of how to experience it, what to expect, different questions that you can go through, and just kind of generally prepare you to go into your partner. Once we finish that, I'll break you guys into rooms, and you'll be with one other person, and you'll have 20 minutes each to provide information, connect. Zero experience is necessary. We had 5 people last month. 3 of them had never practiced mediumship, and everyone got connections. So you don't need any experience to join. All you need is the right environment for you to discover and play in these abilities, to practice them, to experience it. Spirit is always around. Mediumship is available to everyone. You just have to have the desire to turn it on and to tune into the frequency. I feel really comfortable offering these, and I am keeping the group size in these as well to 12 people max. Once you have your 20 minutes each, we're all going to come back into the main room, and I will answer all questions that you have, and we can have discussions about some of the information that came through. So it's a really fun and safe space. I just want to repeat that. It's fun, it's safe, it's encouraging, it's like comforting. Like there's nothing to be scared about if you are feeling nervous or have a little bit of fear around mediumship. I think this is another great place for you to start. And if you'd like to join, I will have a link down below. Also on my website, you can find it. And then I just want to repeat quickly the services that I'm offering. I have expanded a little bit in 2025, and there are limited spots for January. I haven't opened my February books yet, probably towards the end of next week, but I do have less than 10 sessions available in the month of January right now. So I am offering mediumship readings if you're hoping to connect with someone on the other side. We can also do an Akashic record reading where we can work through blockages, limiting beliefs, understanding patterns in your life, finding your soul's purpose, and what are you meant to be doing right now. And then also I have a new service that I'm offering, and it's going to be spiritual mentorship or business mentorship if you're trying to create and build a spiritual business. So if you are interested in any of these, you can find all the information on the website. I just wanted to toss it out there because I feel like I don't actually talk about my services very often on the podcast. Before we get into spiritual awakening and all the details and what you need to know about it, I wanted to quickly talk about the full moon that's coming up. I'm going to try and make sure that we are talking about this in the podcast because it's something that I deeply follow in my life and have little rituals that I do and really use the energy. So I feel like this is something that how do I explain it? I feel like I'm drawn to share this information with you guys as well. The full moon in January is going to be on January 13th. They're calling this the wolf moon. This full moon will be happening in Cancer. So this will bring deeply emotional and nurturing energy forward into your life. This is a time to connect with those around you. It's a really good time for connection. The things that you can do on the 13th, which is Monday, is reflect on your emotions. Journal or meditate. Try to process and release anything that's been holding you back in the last moon cycle. Make it a self-care evening. No screen time. So instead, choose a bath, a walk outside. You can light a candle, listen to music, or read a book. Whatever you do that makes you feel relaxed. But I want to emphasize unplugged. Make sure you unplug. This is a time to sit in the moment and to take care of your mind, body, and spirit, starting to feel that connection in your life. And then the last thing that you can do on Monday is let go of old patterns. So I've seen this popping up quite a bit in recent Akashic record readings. And this last 2 weeks has been wild how much this has been popping up. So Cancer energy encourages emotional renewal. Release those fears and habits that no longer serve your higher good. And this is something you're going to have to consciously do. It's not something that will just happen. You have to look at some of these fears or limiting beliefs that you've been holding on to and let them go, release them. There's tons of meditations. I always go back to meditations, but there's tons of online guided meditations for releasing old fears and habits that are no longer serving you. You can do them in like a 10 or 15 minute. Once you do a few of these, you'll understand how the process works. And then you'll be able to kind of like pick and choose what works for you and do your own practices for letting go. So here's my tips for the full moon. I hope they help you. Cancer is also a water sign, so a bath or a shower at the end of the evening can help you further connect with this moon energy. And then last pro tip, I have to talk about this. I feel like I don't share this enough, but I do it all the time for myself, is don't forget to make your full moon water. I know, full moon water, it's a thing. If you don't already make it, this is a great time to start. I usually fill a mason jar. I have one that has a lid similar to this, and I'll just stick it out into the full moon light in a windowsill. It doesn't have to have direct moonlight. I just like to have it so it has access to outside light, right? The full moon will light up everything around. The energy is there, right? The intention is there. Then in the morning, I like to set my intentions, the intentions that I had for that full moon or that new moon, maybe things that I'm letting go, and I will drink my infused water and drinking the intentions, letting it happen, okay? I know it sounds woo-woo. This is probably about as woo-woo as I get, but moon water, it's a thing. I do it. Okay. Let's jump into today's topic. I've had this popping up a lot in my business. I've had a lot of people coming to me that are going through a spiritual awakening. There's been a lot of discussions after appointments about things that they're experiencing, my advice, things like that. And I just thought, you know what, this would be a great topic, and a topic that really never gets old, that will always apply to new people, and one that I can refer to others that are going through this. So we're going to be talking about the signs of a spiritual awakening, how to get through it, what to expect, and like how to know when you're on the other side. And this is going to be just my own personal experience, so I have to emphasize that everyone's journeys are different and unique. But I do feel like a lot of people that are here listening to this podcast are probably having similar experiences that I had. That's why you're here. That's why I've fallen onto your path. I truly believe that the collective on earth right now, that the human race is going through an awakening. It is happening. The amount of people that are waking up every single day that are spiritually turning on is crazy. I don't remember this being such a topic. And I don't think that this is like a phase or an influencer or like a scam type thing. I think this is legit. Like, I think people are legitimately just waking up consciously. There is a conscious shift happening across the collective, happening in all countries. I just had a meeting with someone in France the other day. It's not just in North America, it's happening in all continents and in all countries. So I just want to toss that out there. People are just becoming more aware of the energy around them. I have a question for you. Have you been feeling like confused, overwhelmed with the energy around you? Have you started to question what is happening around you? Maybe even questioning your old belief systems. These are some big first signs that you are starting to enter a spiritual awakening. And I want to dive into so you can understand what it is and give you the best advice from my own personal experience. Some of the signs, and I'm going to share how I experience these. I'm an experiential sharer, teacher, how do I say that? Mentor, I guess you could say. And I like to share my own personal experiences. So it's not just reading from a book, like this is what to expect, but it's like, these are my own personal experiences. This is how it happened in my life. And by sharing our stories with each other, I think we can help others find the path, link the puzzle pieces together. I really think it's important for us to share more with each other and help each other get through this. So some of the signs, are you questioning your old beliefs or values? I know for me, this was a really big one. I started to question the other side. What was life after death? I had lost my mother-in-law right before my awakening, and I don't know what I thought. I just thought she died, and that's just what happened. And I remember telling my kids that grandma went to heaven, but I remember not believing that. I remember not believing the other side, and I can remember feeling like I am lying to them, but I hope that it brought them comfort. I really started to question that part. I started to question my spirituality. I started to have spirit communications and just was like questioning just everything that I thought was life and my belief systems. Another feeling that people often will get is like a disconnect, and you might feel like routines or people that once felt good or fulfilling are no longer. And this can almost feel like unsatisfied with things or like something is missing. This is a very common feeling. And yeah, this was another one I felt. I felt this in relationships. I felt this in life. I felt this in my work. I felt this in food. It was like literally affecting every area of my life, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, like what had changed. And for me, it happened like within a few weeks. What had changed in my life in a few weeks? And it was starting to piece those puzzle pieces together. Another sign is that you may have a sudden thirst for deeper meaning and understanding the universe more. So I started seeking out podcasts and information on different spiritual modalities. I'll never forget, I had to put this in my notes. I'll never forget, there was this fashion influencer that I had followed for many years. And one day she shared her podcast and had shared that she was shifting her business over to this. And I wasn't really sure what she was talking about or what it was, but I just had this nudge to listen to her podcast. And on that, she actually shared that she was into Akashic record readings, that she had had a spiritual awakening, and this was all very new to me. She was actually a catalyst to my own journey into the Akashic records, and I am forever grateful for her. Her podcast is AG University. I really recommend listening from the beginning. It helped me in so many ways and really just kind of started the breadcrumb path for me. Another sign you might notice is increased empathy and sensitivity. And this one can be frustrating, especially if you are not a highly sensitive person, if you are not very connected to your emotions. I probably would consider myself one of those people prior. I'm a Virgo, I'm very analytical, I'm very data driven. Emotions are not something that I was really strong at. But what I started to notice is that I was having deeper conversations with people. I was starting to feel more connected to their emotions. A lot of this was around grief and death, which makes sense now looking back. And even as I talk about it, my voice goes froggy. It's a spirit kind of stepping into the conversation. It was odd because I was never okay talking about death and grief. And all of a sudden, I started to have these deep conversations with people around me and some very emotional and I want to say emotionally intense, and not in a bad way, just very, very strong feelings. This was something I wasn't used to. So it was very unusual for me. And now it's honestly just part of the norm. That is my life. I talk about death. I'm okay with grief. I'm okay with deep conversations. The deeper, the better. I'm here for it. I'm here for those deep, soul moving conversations. Another sign that you might notice is reoccurring thoughts, and I like to call these intrusive thoughts, even though they were not necessarily negative thought patterns. It just felt like I had no control over them. Like they were just always popping into my head, random, different things, different topics. Now knowing what I know a little bit for my own personal journey, was a lot of it was spirit. It was spirit coming into my life. It was passing thoughts, passing spirits. Now I definitely have more control over that. So if you are experiencing, I just want to say that it can get better. And part of it is learning that you can set boundaries and that you have control over that as well. But that it takes a bit of time to figure that one out. And then the last sign that I have on here is strange occurrences and synchronicities. I wish that I could just list off every single synchronicity and strange occurrence that was happening when I first started, even the ones that happen now. I did start notes, but I was probably like a month and a half into my journey before I started to track everything. I do recommend that you do this with like a journal or the notes in your phone. But for me, it was like numbers, conversations, events that were lining up, like things that just started to happen in perfect unison. It was really strange. And now I have it on my website. I mean, I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I don't. Everything is a synchronicity. Everything is meant to happen. And the more that you awaken to that and the more you start to understand it, I feel like the stronger it starts to grow and get in your life. And it will be stronger in certain points of your journey. It will also be stronger in just certain points of your life after, but I don't feel like it's that intense all the time. So if you're in that, enjoy it, because it will simmer out eventually. So these are just a few of the signs that I personally went through, but honestly, there's so many, it's endless. If at any point in today's episode you want to drop in the comments, either through the podcast or on YouTube, please share your own experiences, your own signs, things that you went through, anything you want to share. I firmly believe in community and sharing and helping each other, and want to create a space where we can do this. And it's just nice to meet and talk with like-minded people. All right, next part of today's discussion. So, what is a spiritual awakening? It is often defined as a journey of self-discovery, growth, and connection with your higher self. It's not about escaping reality, but more about living authentically and living authentically in yourself, living more present and aligned with your higher purpose and your higher self. It's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. I do feel like your purpose and your higher self can evolve and change through time as well. So even when you kind of go through your awakening, you start to understand things. I think it's like an onion and there's multiple layers. And even when you think you understand something, another layer will be peeled back, and you'll go through some more stuff. But there's no end destination, if that makes sense. It's literally a life path and journey. It's also important to note, I wanted to say this, that spiritual awakenings are very personal and no two are alike. So even though I share how mine went and what worked for me and my best advice, yours could be totally different. And if any of this information doesn't resonate with you, I want to advise you to seek out others that may be speaking about their own personal journeys, because you will find someone that you resonate and that you connect with. And I think it can make it easier when you get to hear other people's stories, and it makes you feel not so crazy, not so alone, maybe. I think going through an awakening can be a very lonely time because you're doing a lot of this on yourself. A lot of it is happening within your own self, and there's really nothing that no one else can do to make it easier or make it go faster. It really all depends on you. So some of the physical, emotional, and mental signs you may experience, we're going to go over those next. Before I also, I have to state this, I should have stated this earlier, but before you jump in the comments about mental health, this is not mental health advice or diagnosis information. If you think that you may be experiencing a mental health crisis, I advise you to get medical help. Now, I personally, like my own story, and I've shared this before, felt like I was going crazy when I first started to go through my awakening. And I have been working in pharmacy for almost 20 years. So I'm a licensed pharmacy technician. I work in a hospital. I'm very aware of our mental health crisis. So I knew what my paths were, and I was very close to going to our emergency and talking with the doctor. And I did decide to start meditating. That was what kind of worked for me and helped me sort out my own mental thoughts. But if you are at that point and you are not able to tell the difference, then I would recommend that you seek medical attention, okay? That needs to be stated in here. All right, let's continue on. So some of the physical signs might be fatigue or insomnia. unexplained physical sensations like tingling or warmth. Often these are tied to energy shifts. I experienced both of these. I was having very wild and vivid dreams. I was struggling with sleep patterns. I was waking up multiple nights or multiple times in a night. I was also feeling very tired during the day. I would also have those physical sensations of tingling and like almost like vibrating. And I now know that it is that bit of an energy shift. It's also the feeling I experience when spirit comes close to me and when I'm connecting. So some things won't make sense right now, but you'll start to piece things together as you go through it. A few of the emotional signs may be heightened emotions, crying easily. It's an awful one if you if you haven't experienced it and you don't, good, but man, when it comes on, it can be intense. You may also feel joy or sadness, but everything you feel starts to just feel more deeply and more intense, more heightened than what you used to. It can feel a little bit like a roller coaster ride. You may also have a desire to release past traumas and old patterns. These can be frustrating sometimes. Things are going to surface that you haven't thought about in a long time. These things are happening to encourage you to heal and move forward. Some of the mental signs you may experience are questioning societal norms and structures, feeling torn between old habits and new perspectives. I will say I really started to question everything happening around me, everything going on, looking deeper into things. It can be a tough one as well. It can definitely feel like things just don't fit and belong anymore. And then some of the spiritual signs, and these are fun ones, is reoccurring angel numbers, synchronicities. You may have a sense of being guided by something greater than yourself. And this was a pretty strong pull in mine. These are the ones that can get wild and interesting, but make sure that you're noting them down. So again, I'm going to go back to that journaling and the notes in your phone. Make sure you're writing these things down because it's really neat to look back and reflect after, or even at the end of the week, all the magical moments that happen in your life or synchronicities. Okay, so let's go through how to navigate through one. So if you're in the midst of it and you're like, how do I get through this to get to the other side? Because it can feel really confusing and it's hard to find good information where people are sharing their personal experiences on this. So I'm going to give you some tips. These are things that just worked for me personally. They may or may not work for you, but I think it's always worth a shot. First one is staying grounded. This is a really important one. This is something I've always maintained throughout my spiritual journey. It's something I do to this day. It's so important. Now, if you haven't caught on, I am a grounded, practical, spiritual person. So of course, being grounded would be number one for me. When I felt like things were out of control or I would feel floaty, and if you can resonate with that word, it's just feeling like, I don't know, not feeling like everything is right around me, feeling like floaty. That's the best word I can think. I don't even have words to articulate what it means. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. So I started by just listening to 5 to 15 minute meditations. They don't have to be very long. You can look them up on YouTube, meditations for grounding, short meditations for grounding. And eventually by doing these, you will learn the steps on your own. You will learn what works for you and you can walk yourself through this process without having to do the guided meditation. But I find the guided meditations are just really good to learn some of the steps and to find what works for you. And then once you have those tools, like I said, you can do it anytime you're feeling like you need to ground yourself. Oh my gosh, I'm struggling with some voice stuff. I feel like this is a really important topic to be sharing, and it's definitely aligned with what I'm supposed to be talking about today because my voice is just acting up. My throat chakra is like activated right now. Another one, and I've talked about this a couple times, this is very important, is journaling or adding notes to your phone. So I started a notes section where I would just do synchronicities and daily life. Basically, it would be things that were happening, things that I wanted to track. It could be how my meditation went that day, any like weird things that happened in my meditation, spiritual connections, things that I was sensing or feeling around me. Sometimes it was synchronicity. synchronicities or premonitions. I would have these weird premonitions that someone would come up to me at work and say something and it would happen. And I was always like, oh my gosh, what? How did I know that that was going to happen? And I would write that into my phone. So yeah, it's just a fun way for you to track these things and to start to look back. So even when you're like, I don't know if anything's happening, I don't know if this is real, when you start to look back at these notes, you can't deny it. You start to piece things together. You start to see patterns. You start to realize what areas of your life that you want to work more on, or things that you want to experience more. And it's just a good way to track everything. So make sure you're tracking this. Like I said, you can use a paper book, notebook, or the notes section in your phone. Another one that I really started to take seriously, and something that I probably lacked of in my life before, was rest and self-care. It was something I did not prioritize at all before. I would run myself down, I would work myself into the ground, and I no longer do that anymore. So I would recommend taking care of yourself. Start listening to your body and your soul. I now will plan things around my cycle, including my business. I tune in more to what my body is saying, and I listen and I act on it. If I'm not feeling something, or I feel like I need to sleep a little bit more, if I have the option, I will sleep a little bit more. If I have the option, or I'm feeling like, you know what, I need a little bit of a longer bath tonight, I just need to unwind, that's what I'm doing. I put myself as a priority now, and it was something that I wasn't very good at before. So I really recommend that. If you're not good at it, try it, start it. You'll start to feel better with it. Another suggestion, and this is something I've never really struggled with, but I did find it more important as I went through my awakening, and it's getting outside more. No matter the season, it is important for us to have outside time. Feet in the grass if possible, wind on your face, even if it's just the heat of the sun on a winter's day. And you know that feeling. It could be freezing cold, but there is still a little bit of warmth in the sun, and allowing it to touch your skin. This will help you feel more connected and grounded throughout your journey. I do believe that everyone should have at least 15 minutes of outside time a day. And even if it's just the walk from work to your car. I know for me, I have a couple minute walk outside. When I enter the outside air and I leave the hospital building, I really take a couple deep breaths. I feel the presence. Right now it's dark outside when I leave work, so I usually try and look up at the sky, just soak a little bit of that presence in. And it doesn't have to be large amounts of time. It can just be those small pockets that you take advantage of. And then the last one I want to say is explore and get curious. Allow yourself to dive into topics or podcasts on different spiritual topics that interest you. Trust that you are on a journey, and every step is in a new direction of exploration. Looking back, I now see how each step has led me to each part of my journey, into learning different topics, to understanding more things about the world around me, my spiritual awakening, my spiritual journey. If you find something doesn't resonate with you, guess what? Move on, let it go. Doesn't matter. There are thousands of other topics for you to learn about. So get curious. Find out where your belief systems are. Expand a little, learn something new. I will say my belief system today compared to what it was even 12 months ago is totally different, right? I thought that I had knocked down the boundaries and of the walls of the box that I was living in, but honestly, it was like nothing compared to what I believe today and what I understand today. And I know in another year, it'll be even more expansive. So you will continue to grow and evolve. And I think being curious is just one of those things we always have to hold on to. And just trust that everything you need to know will find you and happen when it's supposed to. This is my favorite part. This is the best advice I can give you to help you get through this part of the journey. This is what I found really worked for me. This is what I share the most with people when they ask or we discuss their spiritual awakening. First off, be patient. I know this is a hard one, but be patient. Trust that everything is happening as it should. Even if you wanted to rush it, you can't, okay? And that's part of an understanding. That's part of like a mind switch, knowing that everything is going to happen at its own divine time, whether you think you have control or you don't. This is something you will learn to understand more as you go through your journey. Another one is set boundaries. It's okay to say no to an event if you're not feeling up to it, or declining a friend's invite that you find drains you every time you meet. Listen to your intuition. Set boundaries. It's okay to say no. If you are a people pleaser, which is probably a category that I would have fallen into before, it's okay to start setting boundaries, prioritizing yourself first. Another one is being okay with not understanding everything in the moment. As a Virgo, this is something I have struggled with in the past. I need to know what's going on. I need to plan. I need to understand. And I now know that most things won't make sense in the moment. It's not meant to make sense in the moment. And trying to understand them will just cause you more confusion and frustrations. Learn to let go of that control. Understand that things will make sense when they're supposed to. Sometimes they never do. That's the funny thing. Sometimes things will never make sense to you, but many times they will later on, and you'll be able to reflect back and understand why that happened, what that conversation was meant to do, why that relationship ended. It will start to make more sense later on, and it's being okay with that, and that can be a hard one for many of us, definitely a hard one. And then the last one is listening to your inner knowing, trusting your own intuition. It's just like any other muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And you can start with just small decisions, this outfit or this outfit. Should I get a coffee or a tea? What am I feeling like for breakfast? Rather than thinking about it, use your intuition, use your gut feelings, use your heart. What are you more drawn to? What do you feel would nourish you today? What do you think you need more of in your life? And as you start to use this in small senses, you will start to trust it and use it in bigger areas of your life. And you'll have this trust that you'll be led to where you need to be. And even if you use your intuition and the decision doesn't turn out right, and maybe it doesn't turn out exactly how you want, this will go back to understanding that not everything will make sense. It's funny how they all kind of connect, and you're probably like, I don't want to hear this. I want answers. Trust me, these are the answers. These are the things that you will understand and will help you as you get through them. And then my biggest and probably most important piece of advice, I needed to kind of talk about this separately, is to just allow. Allow everything to flow and unravel as it does. Follow the breadcrumb paths. There is a reason you are on this journey. I feel the quicker that you let go of that control and trying to understand everything, the smoother it starts to become. So imagine this, you're trying to swim upstream. You're paddling as hard as you can. You're kicking, you're spitting water, you're getting water in your mouth, you're feeling frustrated. That's what it's like when you go against the flow. Now imagine yourself floating down the river on your little floaty, with a little drink in your hand, enjoying the sun on your face, and just knowing that you're going to get to the other side when you allow it to happen. And that honestly is the best piece of advice that I can give. It's just learning to go with the flow of things and trusting that everything is happening as it's supposed to. Next is, how will you know when you reach the other side? This is a common question. When am I going to get there? What does the other side look like? Things that you will probably experience when you reach the other side. When you kind of get through this initial awakening, you'll have a sense of peace. So you'll feel content in general. You would just feel like, peace and content. That is a very generalized feeling, and it'll cover many emotions, but that's what you're going to be looking for. You will not be seeking endlessly. So if you're still in that seeking where you're looking and you're always trying to absorb and get more information, you're probably still in the throes of it. You will understand later that all the answers are inside you. And I know this seems crazy, but you will understand when you get there. Remember, everything is not making sense right now, and it's not going to. But eventually you will get to that point where you'll know that a lot of the answers are within. You will also feel less resistance in your life. You will understand how to flow and will use that in your daily life. You won't feel like you're always going uphill. Now, I don't want to say there's never going to be struggles or uphill battles, but if you feel like it's a daily uphill and that everything just doesn't seem right, you're probably still in it. And then I think one of the other things you'll notice when you get to the other side is that you're going to feel a deeper connection with yourself, the world around you, and the people around you. And understand that you may have people and things in your life that no longer feel aligned, and that's okay too. These were things that I started to realize once I got to the other side, and it's just, you feel better. How about that? That's the best way. You're not feeling so confused. You feel way more content. You have a better understanding of what's happening and what you believe and where you're going. And I don't want to say that your spiritual awakening has an end point, because I don't think it does. I do think it ebbs and flows, and that there are layers to that onion that are going to peel away. But once you get through that initial shock and growth, these are a lot of the things that you'll see. So when you start to feel these and see these signs, good news, you're probably coming to the end of that initial awakening. Now, I do think it's also important for us to talk about a few of the challenges that you may experience throughout or after your spiritual awakening. Back to what I just said about old relationships, you will find certain relationships no longer feel fulfilling, especially the ones that you have had based around negative behavior. So maybe you have a friend that when you get together, you guys are always going for a drink, or maybe you're always complaining about other things in your life. These relationships may not fit the same way into your life, and that's okay. You have permission to let things go. You can also set new boundaries with these people and say, you know what, I'm trying to do this, or this is like, steer the conversation, maybe change the activities. And if you're still not able to have that friendship around new activities, then maybe it doesn't serve you anymore, right? And it's okay to let go of that, because you are going to find some people just aren't a part of your life when you get to the other side. And there's going to be some that you cannot let go, and you just got to find common ground with. So it's a bit of give and take. Another trouble that you may experience is relating to people and conversations. And I find this so often, just not feeling like a part of the conversation, or that I even want to be a part of the conversation. So there's usually two ways that I will approach these, and I either exit the convo, just step away and walk away and continue on. Okay, I gotta go. Or I will do my best to not absorb their energy, but maybe steer the conversation another direction. A few tactics, you can take or leave them, but I did find those things help. I either would just leave it, or I would try and steer in a different direction. And it can be frustrating sitting in those situations where you're just not feeling that connection, and you'll get better at finding people that you do feel that connection with. Another trouble that people often experience, it was something I kind of struggled with at the beginning, is balancing your new spiritual life with your muggle life, I like to say. So your human life, your real, not real life, but you know, that non-spiritual life. And for me, it was all about finding balance. Balance is so important. One of the things that I've decided is to turn off my mediumship unless I am meeting with a client. I don't want to say I wish, but sometimes I think about what it would be like to live half in and half out, so half in each world. But for me, with work and my family and kids and just life, I find it very difficult to be present and present in other people's conversations and lives when I'm half in the spiritual world. It's just very, I find it very consuming. So imagine trying to have a conversation with a friend and their grandma keeps trying to talk to you. And your friend is talking about maybe the struggles that she has with her kids or with her mom, but her grandma keeps popping in and wanting to talk. Imagine how difficult it is to be present in that conversation with your friend, listen, give advice, and having her grandma trying to talk to you. And that's like a perfect example of why I choose to not allow spirit to communicate with me unless I'm sitting with their loved one in a client situation or an agreed mutual situation, because it's just very hard. It's like having two separate conversations. And I think this can apply in so many areas of your life, even if it's not mediumship that you're experiencing. It's just finding that balance. And still remember, you're here to live your human life. You're here for the experience. It's also important that you're experiencing the things that you signed up for in this lifetime. And then learning to live awakened. This is my last one. This takes time. This truly takes time. It takes time to integrate everything. It takes time to integrate your new belief systems, to understand how they fit into your life, how to move forward with all of this, how to move forward in relationships with people around you. Again, it's going to go back to finding that balance, finding balance in everything, feeling grounded, grounding yourself, staying grounded. That helps. That's something that's really helped me on my journey. And I've personally found meditation to be a pillar in my life and something that I always will say has saved me. Meditation saved my life. I didn't know that I could do it. I always felt like I could never quiet my mind. It's not something that everyone can do right off the bat, but it is something that everyone can learn. Some people, it may take a little bit longer than others, but it is a practice that you can learn. If you can learn to walk on your 2 feet and you can learn a complex language like English or whatever language you speak, you can learn how to meditate. It is not a complex task. It just takes time and effort. And I highly recommend everyone introducing meditation into your life. I know there's a lot of people that are like, you don't need to meditate. Da, 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 da. I agree, you don't have to, but I do think it makes things easier, and you need to find a way to gain control of your own thoughts, to be able to release things, to have inner contemplation. And meditation is probably the easiest and the quickest way to get into those processes. So yeah, I just want to tell everyone, I want to shake them on the shoulders and say, you can do it. You just need to figure it out. And it's going to take some time, but it will become an important part of your life. And there's a reason why Buddhists have been meditating for thousands of years. There's a reason why it is such a huge part, because it is important for spiritual growth, I believe. So anyways, that wraps up the information that I wanted to share on spiritual awakenings. Again, this is very much based on my own experiences, things that I went through, what helped for me, what worked, what I felt after. I hope this helps you if you are on this journey. If you have any questions or you want to leave any comments, please feel free to do so. I love hearing how other people are experiencing things, maybe tips that you have. There may be something that you experienced or knowledge that you can share that will help someone else. And if you help one person, you've done a good job. So I encourage you guys to drop in the comments and share as well. And this is just a really personal experience, and no two journeys are the same. I do feel like many of us are walking a similar path. And if you have found yourself to my content, you're probably experiencing similar things. And just know that you will get through it. Follow these tips. I truly believe they will help anyone that's going into one right now, maybe in the middle of it or coming to the end. This is the best advice that I could give to someone new. All right, guys. Well, this is a long episode. I wasn't expecting this, but there's just so much information to talk about on this topic. If it helps you, please feel free to like this episode, share it with friends, whatever you want to do. I definitely will be coming back to it and sharing it with more people as clients and people come to me with questions. And I just hope that this provides some information to those going through it right now. So on that note, I am going to let you guys go. Thank you for joining this journey. Thank you for walking the path with me. And I look forward to seeing you guys in next episode. All right. Bye.